The Shepnaz podcast begins now.
Well, hi, and welcome to the Shepnaz podcast. My name is Tim Swanson, and I want to welcome you to our podcast today. I'm sitting in for Joey, and it is good to host today. We've got a couple of great guests with us today. I've got Brenda Johnston and Beth Bentley, and they are with an organization here in Gahanna that's called GRIN, which stands for Gahanna Residents in Need. Before we go on, some of you may not know me. My name is Tim Swanson. I'm one of the pastors here at Shepherd, but I also wear a second hat in that I represent an organization here in Gahanna that's called the GMA, or Gahanna Ministerial Association, which is an ecumenical group. We meet once a month as pastors across Gahanna. And within that group, each year we choose someone to be a part of the GRIN board. And it's been my pleasure over the last 3 out of the last 4 years to have served on the GRIN board. And I can tell you firsthand that this is a remarkable group that just does an organization that does amazing things here in the Gahanna area. So with that, I just want to turn it over to talking to them a little bit and letting you get to know who GRIN is, who Beth and Brenda are, and their role, and just a little bit more about this food bank here in Gahanna. Brenda, I'm going to start with you. Would you just introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about yourself and your role at GRIN?
Oh, yes. My name is Brenda Johnston. I'm the executive director for GRIN. I have been a part of GRIN since 2006 in many different roles, now being the executive director, of course. I am a mother. I have been married for 18 years. A Christian. I've been a Christian for a long time. And I'm very passionate about feeding those in need, because eating is a basic need of life, and something that we're commanded to do is to help feed our neighbors. And so I'm very passionate about that, and I love the services that GRIN has to be able to feed those in need in Gahanna, the many families that keep increasing every single month.
Sure.
Yeah.
Beth, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, thanks. I'm Beth Bentley. I'm the program director at GRIN. I've been with GRIN since 2017. I was familiar with GRIN through my kids for a lot of years before that, but after they got a little older, I went back to work. As the program director, I get to make sure that all the programs happen. The food, our back to school fair where we give backpacks, weekend supplemental food where we give out food to kids in need over the weekend to make sure they have enough to eat, Thanksgiving assistance, different holiday assistance. I think GRIN has been a perfect fit for me. If I had one word to describe myself, it would be service. And getting to be the hands and feet of Jesus, assisting residents in Gahanna, is just such a blessing to me. I've been married for 32 years. I've got 2 kids that are out of the house now, which is wonderful but sad at the same time.
Yeah.
But it's a great place to be. It's a great fit for my life. And I'm just so thankful every day that I get to be a part of this organization.
Well, I can tell you firsthand that Beth and Brenda are beyond passionate about trying to see the families in Gahanna have enough to eat. And there were a number of things that they listed that I think if you didn't know more specifics about them, you wouldn't understand the magnitude of the need. And so if you would just take a minute to talk about the magnitude of need. I know just based on the number of kids, for example, that get the weekend supplemental food, and especially during COVID and post-COVID, the kinds of increases we've seen. Just talk about that for a minute, if you would.
Yeah, the weekend supplemental food is designed to give children that have been identified by schools, by the teachers, the staff, the custodial workers, anybody in the building that comes in contact with these kids that don't have enough to eat over the weekend for whatever reason. There may not be food in the home. Parents may be working and not, available to help the kids. But whatever the reason, we give them 2 breakfast, 2 lunch, and 2 dinner in a bag at home. We partner with all different churches and organizations to make this happen. And right now we're doing 217 kids a week. It's it's an overwhelming task and that we couldn't do if we weren't partnered with a whole lot of other people.
And on average, the cost of each one of those bags, that the 218 a week, is how much per child?
Oh goodness, it's gone up significantly this year. I would say probably closer to $10 a bag. It was about $7.50, and with food costs where they've increased so much, we're seeing about $10 a bag.
Right.
Which
So in
is
order to
huge.
feed one child for that month, roughly, we're talking $40 a month
Yes.
times 218 that you're doing every week.
Right. And we have to remember that this is supplemental food. If this was the amount of food they were eating every day for every meal, it would not be enough food.
Right.
This is just, they're not hungry when they come in on Monday morning. That's the goal. The schools see a lot of kids that come in on Monday morning with belly aches, or they're grumpy and tired, and they get sent to the nurse's office, they get a snack, and they come back and they're amazingly so much better. Or they're grumpy until lunch.
Right.
You know, that, and, you know, part of it is kids don't want to get up, but part of it is some of these kids are really hungry. And that's, to me, an incredibly heartbreaking thing to see kids that don't have enough. They can't study well. They don't perform well. It's just hard to function if you're focused on having enough food.
Right.
Kids shouldn't have to have that responsibility.
For a lot of these kids, correct me if I'm wrong, but their best meal during the day is at lunch at school.
Yes.
Because they may or may
Breakfast.
not have something at breakfast or have something for dinner that night.
Correct.
Yes.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
So it's a beautiful partnership. The schools are very appreciative that we do this. They are very communicative with us, letting us know changes, updates. It's all confidential. We don't get the children's names. We just get a number. We address allergies. You know, so we'll have a no pork bag, a no nut bag, you know, whatever the case may be. But we want to make sure these kids have something over the weekend.
So kind of tied to that program as well is, so when the school's out, then in the summertime, there would not be the opportunity for you to give them those bags. So let's just talk for a minute about the summer lunch program and how I know that the GMA, Gahanna Ministerial Association, we have most of our churches, if not all, are somehow tied to helping to provide meals during the summer. So talk about that and where that's held.
Sure. We have a summer lunch program this year. It's going to be out of Royal Manor Elementary and Goshen Lane Elementary. We serve Monday through Friday, except for Juneteenth and 4th of July, and Memorial Day, from noon to 1. And it is open to anyone in the Gahanna Jefferson School District or 43230 zip code that needs a hot meal for lunch. The churches or organizations provide, they make the meals, they buy the meals, they serve the meals. It's an amazing partnership. We served, Brenda, help me with numbers.
14,083
meals last
meals
year.
last summer in compared to the summer before, which was 7,000.
Yeah.
So it literally doubled in 1 year's time.
We also take that opportunity to every Friday for families that are there or whatever the last day of the week is, we give them a bag of food to help them over the weekend. It might be pasta, spaghetti sauce, and we have
Peanut
a lot
butter.
and some vegetables. We get a lot of fresh produce over the summer from different gardens, and we might include that in there. But we try to give them something, just a little bit of something to help them get through the weekend. We have a lot of children that come on their own, which is great. You know, parents are working, they're home during the summer, Big Brother brings them, and this is just a great way for us to make sure that they get something nutritious and provided for them every day during the summer. And it starts the Tuesday after Memorial Day, which is the very first week after school gets out on the Wednesday before, and it runs through the Friday, the 11th of August, which would be the Friday before school starts on the following Wednesday.
Right.
So we try to fill that entire gap so the kids have enough to eat.
And one thing that we started last year as well was providing something for breakfast for the entire week.
Yes.
Because that's something, I mean, if you think about it, if the kids are relying on their school to provide lunch and breakfast to them, and then bam, in the summer, there's nothing. So we started providing like a box of granola bars or a box of cereal, oatmeal packets, something like that to get them through the week while the hot lunches were being served and picked up on a daily basis.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know the demand, and as I served on the board and would see the numbers, it was just remarkable how, especially during COVID and even post-COVID now, we've seen it go up significantly. Just talk for a minute, if you would, about how we saw that, how those numbers go up, and kind of what was driving that.
In the beginning, when COVID hit, I think it was being driven by COVID itself, a pure panic. I mean, people were really afraid that there wasn't going to be enough food or that they wouldn't be able to get out. They were afraid to get out at all. And we turned our services inside out, literally, and we were one of the few food pantries that were able to do drive-through service and keep up with the demand. So that was really amazing. The numbers started increasing at that point, and we thought, well, after COVID was over, in the pure panic, that it will start leveling out. It has not. It has continued to grow, and we think a lot of that has to do with the SNAP program and the way the COVID stimulants that were given for the SNAP program, those have diminished or been eliminated. And so there's that, but there's also inflation. There's also the cost of food, the cost of gas, the cost of electric. Everything has gone up. So it's driving them to choose, okay, what are we going to do? We're going to pay this or we're going to buy food.
Right.
By coming to GRIN, we can supplement the food piece and then enable them to be able to pay their utility bill if that's what they need to do.
I know as I was rotating off the board, we were looking at 2022 over 21, and we were up 35% in terms of just the volume going out. Talk to us a little bit about that increase, and I know you just talked about, before we started the podcast, we were chatting, and you said that March was a huge increase. Talk about that for just a second, and then what that's leading to in terms of how you're needing to expand.
The numbers continue to amaze me that they are continuing to go up, to be perfectly honest with you. We, like Brenda had mentioned, we thought things would slow down. They haven't slowed down. This month alone, we are up. This March was slower than January and February, but still up, serving more than 100 families more than we did last year, this March. So we wonder, where are these families coming from? And since COVID, we've made a lot of procedural changes. We went from serving only the Gahanna Jefferson School District to the Gahanna Jefferson School District and all of 43230. We realized that part of 43230 was underserved. And the way most food banks work, it's by zip code. So we expanded there. Then we realized that a lot of our families were relying on food for more, relying on GRIN for more than just the typical 5 days of food that we give them. So now we allow families to come twice a month. And I would say about half the families come twice a month. So that has increased the amount. We do have just, the need is crazy. Again, like I said, it just continues to amaze me. Every week we have new families that come to GRIN that we have never seen before. They are referred either by 211 or by a friend. We get people from outside of our area all the time, and we don't ever turn anybody away for food. We serve them one time if they're out of the area and then help them find the appropriate location to go. But we're never going to turn anybody away.
Right.
We don't want, you can't function if you can't eat. And this is a great way for us to, like I mentioned earlier, be the hands and feet of Jesus. Jesus fed the 5,000 and shared. He didn't just talk to them, So that's kind of what we want to do. We want to be able to show Christ's love through how we're giving, how we're meeting an immediate need.
But we are seeing it turning. It's starting to shift from us being supplemental to a main source. That's really scary. It's not something that we're sure we can handle on a long-term basis. So we're definitely trying to encourage them to shop wisely. We're that's part of the reason we want to move to a bigger space to be able to house more food, more fresh produce from Mid-Ohio and things like that, so that we would be able to help meet that need in the future, should it arise.
It makes me think about another one of the served groups that I know we've talked a lot about the kids and how we've been trying to minister to them at the schools and the needs they have, the weekend supplemental food, but then there's also the senior adults, because there's an awful lot of seniors who come here as well. And I know there's a satellite pantry there at one of the buildings now, isn't there, that where you guys have been helping to serve and provide?
Church.
At Stigler Village, which is a National Church residence, there's a we deliver to them once a month. Residents in that community can sign up and say they need like a full serve, which would be a 5 days worth of food that would include produce and dairy and meat, as well as the dry goods. Some families there or people there choose only the fresh items, and we deliver that as well. And we take their holiday assistance bag to them, try to eliminate I can't get there, so I can't get help. Kind of along those lines, we have really increased our home deliveries. We have found that there are quite a few people in the community that need assistance that either don't have a car, or they're physically unable to get out, or they're not healthy enough to get out, or whatever the case may be. And we have volunteers that deliver that food to them up to twice a week, and twice a month. And that's been a really exciting piece to get into, because you feel you're so struck if you don't have a big network, or you're not well enough to get out and shop through the grocery store or shop through the aisles at our food pantry. This way we can help them.
Well, that'll do for our episode today. Thank you to Pastor Tim and to Beth and to Brenda. We'll hear the rest of their conversation tomorrow. If you'd like to find out more about GRIN, you can go to grinforgahanna.org. That's GRIN, 4, Gahanna.org. Also, you can always find out more about the church at Shepnaz.org. If you would like to email us and tell us what you think of our episodes, or if you have some ideas for us, you can get a hold of us at podcast@shepnaz.org. For Pastor Joey and Pastor Tim, I'm Joe. Have a great day. This podcast is a production of the Shepherd Church of the Nazarene, Gahanna, Ohio. Email to podcast@shepnaz.org and let us know what you think.